The porcelain cup slipped from my daughter's hand and shattered on the hardwood floor, scattering coffee across the rug like spilled ink. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the faint dripping from the broken handle still trembling between her fingers. Samantha didn't apologize. She didn't even flinch. Her eyes, sharp, painted with rage, locked on mine. "Dad," she said, her voice cracking with practiced desperation, "I need the money now. Not when you're gone. Now." Her husband leaned back on the sofa, arms stretched lazily across the cushions as if he owned the place. Peter's smirk deepened. "She's right, Will. What's a few thousand to you? You've got more than you'll ever spend." The words felt like acid. Not because they were new. They weren't. But because of how easily they came, like rehearsed lines in a play they'd been performing for years. I held the folder tighter in my hands, the one I'd pulled from my desk an hour earlier. 30 years of savings, investments, retirement planning, all reduced to flimsy pages now treated like bargaining chips. "You think this is a game?" I said slowly, feeling each syllable scrape against my throat. "But I worked for every dollar in here. 3 years of 12-hour days, missed birthdays, missed dinners, all so you could have everything I didn't." The photo on the mantel seemed to mock me. Samantha at 6 years old, gap-toothed and laughing from my shoulders at a summer fair. Her little hands clutched cotton candy bigger than her head. That child was gone, replaced by the woman now demanding my life's work like it was owed. "You don't understand what it's like," she snapped. Her diamond bracelet caught the lamplight. Another gift I hadn't been able to refuse. "We're drowning, Dad. Debt collectors call every day. You could help with one phone transfer." "Debt you created," I said. My voice was quieter now, but the silence that followed carried more weight than shouting. Jessica appeared in the doorway with a dish towel twisted between her hands, her face pale with worry. "Please. Everyone, just..." But Samantha cut her off, fury exploding across her face. "He's hoarding money while his own family suffers! What kind of father does that?" The room pulsed with unspoken things. My knuckles whitened against the folder. Jessica's eyes flicked to me, pleading for restraint. Peter leaned forward, his smile thinning into something sharper. "You're not getting younger, old man," he said. "Wouldn't it be better to share your wealth now, while you can see it appreciated?" The disrespect hit harder than any insult. A man who'd never worked a steady job, lecturing me on generosity. I rose slowly, joint stiff but resolve sharper than it had been in years. "Get out," I said. The words landed like stone. Samantha's mouth opened, then closed. Peter straightened. And for the first time in decades, I didn't offer excuses. I didn't reach for my checkbook. I simply pointed to the door. The slam of the front door rattled the picture frames on the wall. Samantha's heels clattered down the porch steps, followed by Peter's muttered curses and the growl of their car engine. I stayed standing in the living room, one hand on the brass doorknob, the other still gripping the folder of inheritance documents. The silence that followed was heavier than their shouting. Jessica stepped closer, her hands trembling as she reached to steady the cup shards on the rug. "William." I shook my head. I couldn't trust my voice. The room looked like a battlefield, papers scattered across the floor, the family photo on the mantel knocked face down, coffee stains bleeding into the rug we'd bought for our 20th anniversary. 38 years of marriage, and never had our house felt so foreign. When I finally spoke, my voice came out hoarse. "Do you remember when she begged for that dollhouse? Christmas, she was 8. I worked doubles for 2 months just to afford it. She woke up that morning smiling like it was the best day of her life." Jessica lowered herself onto the arm of a chair, her eyes glassy. "I remember. She's not that little girl anymore," I said, softer this time. "She's someone who throws coffee cups when I won't hand her a retirement plan." Jessica didn't argue. That hurt more than Samantha's words. The phone buzzed on the coffee table. A message. My heart lurched before I even looked. "Dad, I hope you're happy. The kids need winter coats and school supplies, but I guess your money is more important than your grandchildren. Don't expect to see them anytime soon." The words blurred for a moment, my vision swimming. Emma, Jake. 8 and 6, with their messy hair and gap-toothed grins. They were the one reason I'd kept giving, kept bending, kept compromising. Now they were weapons in Samantha's arsenal. Jessica's voice cracked as she read over my shoulder. "She wouldn't. She wouldn't use them like that, would she? She already has, I said. A week here, 2 weeks there. Every time we said no. Every time we tried to stand firm. The weight of it pressed down on me, harder than any financial burden ever had. I had worked 43 years to build stability, to leave behind a future for my family. But instead of gratitude, I had raised a daughter who saw me as a vault, to be cracked open, a faucet to be turned on and off. And now she had crossed into something darker. Emotional blackmail, threats tied to the only innocence left in our fractured family. Jessica laid a hand on mine. Her touch was warm, grounding. Maybe we should just help her this once more. For the children. No. The word was sharper than I meant it to be. But it rang true. I wasn't just saying it to her. I was saying it to myself, to the man who had given too much for too long. I set the phone face down on the table, ignoring its vibration as another message arrived. Somewhere deep inside, something shifted. A line had been crossed, and I knew this story was no longer about money. It was about survival, of dignity, of love, of what family really meant. 6 days passed in uneasy silence. Not a call, not a text. For Samantha, that was unusual. Normally, by day 3 she would return with smaller requests, feigned apologies, or another crisis wrapped in desperation. But this time, nothing. Jessica tried to fill the gap with normality. Morning walks, crossword puzzles, dinners eaten in quiet companionship. Yet even in her silence, I saw the fear. The way she jumped when the phone rang. The way her eyes lingered on the empty spot at the dinner table. I told myself I was grateful for the quiet. But inside, I was waiting for the storm. On Father's Day morning, the storm arrived, not with Samantha's voice, but with the rumble of a delivery truck. The brown UPS van slowed in front of our house. I frowned, lowering the newspaper in my lap. Sunday deliveries were rare. The driver climbed out, carrying a box no larger than a shoebox. "William Carr?" he asked. "That's me. Happy Father's Day. Someone must think highly of you. They paid for special delivery." He handed me the electronic pad, then turned back to his truck. The box was light, too light. When I brought it inside, Jessica emerged from the kitchen, drying her hands. "Who's it from?" "No return address," I said, setting it on the coffee table. We both stared at it. A plain brown box, sealed tight, unmarked except for my name. "Maybe from the kids," Jessica said, though her voice wavered. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe Emma and Jake had convinced their mother to send a gift. But something in my chest tightened. Too neat. Too calculated. Jessica leaned closer, examining the cardboard. Her breath caught. "William, don't open it." "Why?" Her hand hovered over the surface, pointing. Tiny punctures, evenly spaced, barely visible until you looked close. "Breathing holes," she whispered. The air in the room shifted. The suburban quiet outside, dogs barking, a lawnmower humming, felt suddenly far away. We froze as a sound emerged from the box. A faint rustle, then silence, then, unmistakably, a hiss. Jessica stumbled backward, her nails digging into my arm. "Call someone. Now." My phone nearly slipped from my hands as I dialed. 911. "What's your emergency?" My voice shook. "Where we received a suspicious package. It's moving. There are breathing holes. And it's hissing." The dispatcher's calm voice cut through my panic. "Stay away from the package. Officers are on their way. Do not attempt to open it." I set the phone down, chest heaving, eyes locked on the box, as if it might spring to life. Jessica whispered the words neither of us wanted to say out loud. Who would do this? The answer was already forming in my mind, heavy as lead. Not strangers, not pranksters, family. And in that moment I realized Samantha had finally gone beyond words, beyond manipulation. She wanted us afraid. And she had succeeded. The living room no longer felt like home. The box sat on the coffee table, humming with menace, every hiss reminding me of the fragile line between normalcy and something unthinkable. Jessica hovered near the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, as if distance might shield her from what lurked inside. "William, it's alive. Someone put something alive in there." The word someone didn't need naming. We both knew who. A knock at the door jolted us. 2 officers stepped in, young, steady, trained in calm authority. One introduced himself as Officer Reeves, tall and broad, his hand already on a pair of latex gloves. "Sir, ma'am, we'll handle it from here. You did the right thing calling." We led him to the box. Up close, under the harsh lamplight, the holes looked deliberate, almost surgical. Reeves crouched, listening. Another hiss slithered through the cardboard. Sharper this time, as if whatever was inside resented being overheard. His jaw tightened. Could be a snake. We'll call animal control for safe removal. He spoke into his radio, voice clipped, professional. Yet when his eyes flicked up to mine, I saw it, curiosity shading into concern. Do you have any idea who might have sent this? I hesitated. My throat constricted. My wife's gaze burned on me. Waiting. I thought of Samantha's texts, her threats, the silence that had stretched like a taut wire between us. I thought of Emma and Jake, their faces weaponized in her messages. But when I opened my mouth, the words came out hollow, probably just a prank. Neighborhood kids, maybe. The officer studied me, as though he could see the truth behind my denial, but he didn't push. Minutes later, a white van pulled into our driveway. Animal control. A man in overalls, carrying equipment with the casual confidence of someone used to strange emergencies. Within minutes, he had pried open the box with practiced care. Jessica clutched my arm as the lid peeled back. A rustle, scales, then a 3-foot corn snake lifted its patterned body into the air, tongue flicking in and out. Non-venomous, the specialist said. His voice was calm, almost admiring, but a nasty shock all the same. Someone paid good money for it. He slid the snake into a carrier, latching it shut with a snap. Safe now. Safe. The word rang hollow. The snake was gone, but the venom lingered. When the officers left, the house sagged into silence again. Jessica busied herself in the kitchen, running water too hard, as if scrubbing away the morning. I remained in the living room, staring at the faint outline where the box had rested. This wasn't just a prank, it was a message. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to Samantha's contact photo. Her smiling face frozen in a moment I could barely reconcile with the woman she'd become. My thumb hovered over the call button. Jessica's voice floated from the kitchen doorway, soft but heavy. If you hear her voice, if you hear what she says, what then? I didn't answer. Because the real question wasn't what she would say, it was what I would finally do. I sat alone in my office that night, the glow of the computer screen painting my face in cold blue. On the desk lay decades of evidence. Bank statements, cancelled checks, credit card bills. Each one a confession of how thoroughly I had confused love with rescue. Jessica slept restlessly upstairs. I could hear her shifting through dreams that sounded too much like memories. She wanted to believe in the little girl with the dollhouse, the pink pajamas, the Mother's Day drawings. But the woman who had sent a snake in a box was no little girl. The cursor blinked at me. Remove authorized user. Confirm. I clicked. 30 years of enabling vanished with one keystroke. Automatic transfers cancelled. Credit lines severed. Pay-ins changed. For the first time in decades, the account belonged only to me and Jessica. It should have felt like freedom. Instead, it felt like mourning. At 8:15 the next morning, the phone rang. Her name on the screen. Right on schedule. Dad. Her voice was shrill with panic. My card isn't working. The rent's due. The insurance bounced. What did you do? I sipped my coffee, steady. I stopped paying for your irresponsibility. Her breath hitched. Then the fury came, sharp as broken glass. How dare you? After everything I've done for you, you sent me a snake, Samantha. My voice was calm, almost conversational. On Father's Day, silence, for 3 long beats. Then, you're insane, she spat. That was just a prank, a prank. The word landed like poison. My throat tightened, but I forced the words out. No, Samantha. It was a message. And I heard it loud and clear. Her tone shifted. The old manipulator returning. Fine. You want to play games. Don't expect to see your grandchildren again. But once, those words would have broken me. But not now. That's not a threat. I said, my voice steady as stone. That's a blessing. The silence on the line was electric. She hadn't expected defiance. She hadn't expected the man who always bent to finally stand. Then came the roar. You'll regret this, old man. You think you can control me with money? You think you can cut me out? Watch me? The call ended with a slam of digital finality. Minutes later, tires screeched into the driveway. 2 doors slammed, heavy footsteps. The doorbell shrieked, followed by pounding fists. Jessica appeared at the top of the stairs, eyes wide. William, I've got it. I said, my voice low. I opened the door. Samantha stood there, hair wild, eyes blazing, Peter looming behind her like a shadow. You don't get to do this, she screamed, shoving past the threshold. You don't get to cut me out of your life. For the first time, I didn't step back. I didn't waver. You already did that yourself, I said. And with Jessica beside me, steady as ever, I closed the door on my daughter. This time, it stayed closed. The house was still again. Too still. Samantha's car had roared away hours ago, leaving tire marks across the driveway like scars on skin. But her words lingered. The venom of them clinging to the walls. You'll regret this. You'll never see your grandchildren again. Jessica sat across from me, at the kitchen table, her chamomile tea untouched, her eyes fixed on some memory only she could see. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was full of ghosts. I reached for her hand. She let me hold it, but her fingers trembled. Do you remember? I asked quietly. When Samantha was 8. That Mother's Day breakfast. Burnt toast and juice with too much pulp. Her lips quivered into a sad smile. She was so proud. The memory cut deeper than the argument, deeper than the snake. Because the truth was, we hadn't lost our daughter last week or last month. We had been losing her slowly, year after year, one compromise at a time. I keep asking myself. Jessica whispered, if we could have stopped it. If we gave too much. Or not enough. You gave love, I said. And I gave money. She learned to want one more than the other. The words hung heavy. Neither of us spoke again until morning light crept through the curtains. By then, I'd already made the call. Margaret Summers, the lawyer who had guided us through every milestone of our adult lives, listened without judgment as I explained what needed to change. The inheritance, the will, the trust. Not for Samantha. For Emma and Jake. For the children who still had a chance to grow without poison in their veins. She drafted the documents with clinical precision. Each signature I laid down felt like both a betrayal and a salvation. When the papers were done, when the restraining order was filed, when the last cord had been cut, I walked outside into the yard. The Hendersons next door were playing catch with their son. Mrs. Patterson tended to her roses. Life went on around me, ordinary and unbroken. I envied them, for just a moment. Then I realized what they had wasn't luck. It was boundaries. It was saying no when yes would have been easier. It was refusing to let love turn into currency. That night, Jessica and I cooked dinner together. Nothing special, roast chicken, vegetables from her garden. But the air felt different, lighter, as if some invisible weight had lifted. For the first time in years, there was no expectation that the phone would ring with another crisis, another demand. The quiet was not lonely. It was peace. Before bed, I lingered at the mantel. The family photo stood upright again. Samantha's gap-toothed smile beamed from the frame, forever frozen in innocence. My reflection hovered faintly in the glass. Older, warier, but certain. I loved you. I whispered to the child she once was. I still do. But love without limits is not love, it's surrender. And I won't surrender anymore. I turned out the light, leaving the photo in shadow. For the first time in decades, the house slept whole. And so did I.